It is our pleasure to be joined by the heart, the soul, no, the soul of Soonerscoop.com. Eddie Radosevich is in the house. What's going on, man?
Gentlemen, what's happening? Yeah, you know what? I think about a year or 2 years ago, I probably would have said no. That's like Carrie or Josh or George or Bob or whoever now. But yeah, I am the heartbeat. I'm everything to that side. So I'll just take all the credit, and we'll come back on the other side of that as I catch hell from everybody else that works over there when they hear
Well,
this.
is this your Super Bowl weekend then? Since you're the heartbeat, is this it?
Yes, this is one of my favorite weeks of the year, and thank God that Oklahoma started spring ball practice at a normal time this year because it seemed like there for like an extended period of time, particularly in 2019 when I actually went to the Masters, the spring game was always on Masters Saturday, which I find to be like a religious holiday in some kind of fashion. So yeah, I'm as much as I like the spring game, I'm glad that we don't have to be down in Norman in the middle of a windy football field come Saturday afternoon. I just hope that they're playing golf at Augusta. The weather's not looking too good.
That was when the spring game date came out. The first thing Teddy texted me was, "When's the Masters?"
Yeah, yeah. I
I
mean,
was like, "It's not that weekend. We're good. We're absolutely
it
good."
became one of those things where it was like every year I just guaranteed myself because Alex Fuller has the big Masters party every year, and I always had to miss it. And thankfully, I think there was even one year that I had and this really pissed me off. We had a rivals camp the next day on Sunday, Masters Sunday, and I'm basically listening to the Westwood One broadcast. It's no way to spend Masters weekend.
Brutal.
That's definitely not. Now you mentioned the weather, right? Forecasts for Augusta not looking good, man. How does that affect? How does that affect the tournament as a whole, and maybe how does that affect who you view will be in contention when Sunday rolls around with that type of weather?
Well, I think the first thing that's kind of, and I guess this will probably be one of the talking points and storylines going into the week was just the fact that, with all the LIV guys coming back to play this weekend, it is kind of interesting if it does rain throughout the weekend, and you would hope that it doesn't get to this point. Maybe it will be a 54-hole event, which, ironic enough would be kind of funny with all the LIV guys coming back. But, obviously, I think that if it is as wet as they expect it to be on Friday and Saturday, particularly on Saturday when the wind's supposed to be blowing and it's supposed to be cold, it doesn't play. It probably plays as long. The ball's not going to roll out as much. It's not going to be as dry, and you're not going to get as much bounce. So obviously it would probably help the longer hitters. I think that obviously anytime that you go into Masters Week, it's going to be the usual suspects, guys that know the course, play well off all the undulations that you get out there. I think that that's why it's so important to get off to a good start. And, I think that there's been 3 players in the last 30 years that have gone on to win the tournament, shooting over par on the opening round. And, it's not everything, but I do think, like, if you look at the last 10, I wrote them down. If you look at the last 10 years, there's been no player outside of the top 11 after the first 18 holes. And, ironically enough, it was Tiger in 2019 that was tied for 11th. And that's the farthest somebody's come back. So you obviously, the cliche lineup, you can't win the tournament on day one, but you can play yourself out of it, certainly comes to fruition at Augusta. And, obviously, like 13 is a good example of if it does rain and you're not able to get a whole bunch of rollout with the tee box back, the 35 yards that they moved it back kind of behind 12 green, it's going to be interesting. You're not going to be able to go for it in 2. DJ talked about it today during his press conference, just as far as, he thinks he's going to be doing a whole lot of laying up on 13, which isn't the most exciting thing in the entire world, but I do think that it's going to affect the way that these guys play, particularly on the weekends once you get to Saturday, and then obviously once you get to the back 9 on Sunday.
Yeah, I think the 13 changes there are really interesting. Always been I say always, for a long time has been the easiest hole on the course. I think plays 477 under par. So what does that do for the overall strategy? And because there's a lot of par fives that guys try and take advantage of, and pretty conservative on some other stuff. Also, are there any other changes that are notable that they've done?
Not that any that like I think that just come to mind. Like last year with 15, they moved 15 tee box back and made that second shot into 15 more interesting. I think it's going to kind of do the same thing this year with 13, in that you got through 11, which was one of the toughest par fours in golf. You get through 12, and then for a lot of the guys out there, you were going to be able to cut the corner and get home in 2 on 13 and make birdie at worst. And I think that, now you're going to be putting a wedge into a lot of the players' hands. They're going to need to be laying back. You're not going to see as many guys going for it because you don't want to hit it into the water. I think Tiger on Monday rolled one back into the water. So it's going to be interesting to see how they play this. It's going to, I think for a lot of those guys, it's going to be a little bit of a test as far as what they are looking to do. Obviously it's going to be different how they play. The drive off the tee, you're not going to be able to cut the corner as much because you just simply can't get it over the trees on the left side of the fairway. So you're going to have to hit it straight, and basically hit it straight, and then you're already back 30 or 40 yards. You're going to have to lay up. So, I think for a lot of those guys, it's probably going to, I think more than anything, probably be a little bit of a psychological thing, just as far as it's different than what they played in previous years. But for the guys that are hitting it extremely well, and obviously the guys that can get a wedge into their hand, or whatever the number they want to lay up to, I think it's going to be kind of fun to see those second and third shots now go into 13, where if you're not controlling the ball and if you can't put it to where you need it to be, you could get into a lot of trouble. And that's especially if you're going to hit it over the green and into the bunker, or hit it over and obviously short and funnel it back into the water. So it's going to be different. I don't think that there's any doubt about that. And kind of like how 15 played a year ago, where you're trying to have to hit it onto a little bit of a saddle there. I think that you're going to see more and more guys be okay with the idea of laying back and kind of taking their medicine, if you will. I think the scoring average a year ago was like 4.77, which is really good for any type of hole. It's really pretty easy for the entire field. But at the same time, if you don't watch it, all of a sudden you bogey 11, and then say you get into trouble on 12, and it's not really it's not the easy birdie that I think a lot of people have kind of made it out to be, that it used to be, when you could hit it on in 2, or hit it up around the green and then get up and down for birdie.
Looking at the field, obviously Scheffler, Rory, Rahm up there when you talk about the favorites, but who's coming in hot, right? Who do you feel is carrying a lot of momentum coming into the event?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting in that you look at it, it is the usual suspects. Like Scotty Scheffler's hotter than he was a year ago, and he won by 3, but let's be honest, he was up by 4. He missed the par putt on 18. The guy that I was talking about this morning, that it's kind of incredible that we've kind of forgotten about, and I say forgotten about, maybe it's just because he hasn't played in a while. Jon Rahm was like on top of the golf world 2.5 months ago, and then it kind of got swept under the rug because Scotty's been so good. Rory obviously playing extremely well, and what he did down at the Players a couple weeks ago, that's going to be kind of fun to watch. So like those are the big 3 guys, and then you have like the Corey Connors, who comes in off the Valero Texas Open victory, and he's played at Augusta surprisingly pretty well. I think the last 3 times he's played, I think it's a top 10. I have it written down. I had some cheat sheets here. He's gone the last 3 tournaments, or the last 3 Masters, he's gone T10, T8, T6, which is a little bit surprising for a guy that I don't think is necessarily in that upper echelon of player, but some guys just play well out there. And, Justin Rose is kind of in that mix as far as somebody that has had a lot of success, as opposed to maybe somebody that you would think would have a good record, like a Bryson DeChambeau, who really hasn't played well at the Masters. Or, he missed the cut last year. I think he went 76-80 before he headed home for the weekend, or even a Victor Hovland who has played well, and you would expect him to be in contention, maybe make a top 25 or a top 30, but he's never broken 70 at the Masters. So it's kind of interesting to see, like, and I guess kind of cliche in a way, that it's like Scotty, Rory, Rahm, those are like your guys that I think everybody has circled. And then you get into that next group of guys, whether it be a Colin Morikawa or a Justin Thomas or a Max Homa or a Xander Schauffele, guys that you're kind of waiting to break through, not necessarily in a major because JT has, or a Jordan Spieth who's wanted it back in 2014 and has been there mightily close here over the, agonizingly close in recent years. Who's going to be that guy that I think a lot of people maybe wouldn't pick today going into the tournament, but on Saturday you're going to wake up and he's in contention and you're going to go, God, I should have known that he was going to be there.
You mentioned these guys, Rory and Scheffler, both coming in hot. Chance for a couple of rare feats. Rory has been close, but the career Grand Slam, and then Scheffler, an opportunity to go back-to-back. No one's gone back-to-back since Tiger in 01, 02, 20-plus years. Which do you think's more likely?
As crazy as it sounds, I guess it would be Scotty going back-to-back just because he's playing so well. I mean,
that puts him in rare company. What? Nicklaus, Faldo, and Tiger. That's it,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, and the thing about it is like, it's almost psychotic to say it, but Scotty's playing better this year than he was last year, and he basically scrubbed the field. So I would love to see Rory. I have a soft spot for him. I love what he did for the PGA Tour here in the last year and a half. He's kind of been the leaderhead in or the figurehead in the PGA Tour and the LIV thing. I loved him in the Netflix special. I would be pulling for Rory if it came to that on Sunday. I think it would be just as an ambassador of the game. I'd love to see him in that upper echelon and finish out the major Grand Slam. But sometimes there's a block, it seems like, when he gets to Augusta, that even though he's played really well, and I think a lot of people forget that he finished in second last year after shooting 64
back
on Sunday.
Yeah.
It was the 8 under that he chipped in on top of Colin Morikawa out of the bunker, and it was kind of lost in the mix that he had made this run, and TV probably inflated it more than it really was. But what was he, like 2 or 3 within 2 or 3 as Scotty barreled into 15, and I think he ended up birding 15 and 16 maybe to stretch the lead back out. But he played really well. You just hope he gets off on to a good start on Thursday, and if he can do that, I like where he stands. He's playing about as well as you can remember in recent memory. Coming in, he's been competitive, and you just hope that he can put 4 solid days together at a place that has kind of he's kind of, I guess, not necessarily failed. I don't know if you could say that, but probably just hasn't played up to the level that a lot of people thought he would.
I can't believe we've gone this long without talking about Tiger Woods. But the weather,
we will make do of that. We will make use of Tiger.
Yeah, but the weather, if it's cold like it's supposed to be, I don't think that helps him, right? It doesn't help him keep that leg warm. That's going to work against him. But still, how excited are you to watch Tiger Woods play some golf, man? There's nothing like it. There really is.
Yeah, like I think it even goes back to his first time back this year, and it's like he didn't play well. All things considered, he did play well. At the same time, he made the cut. He was in contention there for a little bit, but just seeing Tiger play at Augusta again, I think we kind of go back to even before he won in 2019, where it was like you never knew if the guy was going to play again, and he almost died in the car wreck, and then he came back and finally got to the top of the hill in 19. And as cool as that was, it's just there's something about this place that he could get around on one leg, and seeing him do it a year ago, and the vibe that came out of that Thursday and Friday, even though the weekend, I think, wasn't what a lot of people wanted it to be for Tiger. We still get an opportunity to watch Tiger play professional golf at the highest level possible. And, I guess to some extent, we just got to be thankful for that he can still get back out there, that he can still get it around with some of these guys. But then, then again, you see the way that he played in that first trip back around, and his ball speed's still there, his swing speed's still there. He's out driving JT and Rory, and I don't know. I guess the Tiger fan in me wants to believe that he could compete, but there is this element of he doesn't play a whole lot of competitive golf. You got to be able, you kind of got to be in that arena to be able to answer when the call is made, and I just don't know how well he can hold up. And like you said, with the weather, it's going to be. It seems like all odds are stacked against him, but hell, that's that would make any type of run that he made on the weekend that much more special.
Yeah, well, you mentioned maybe being a little bit rusty, not playing a lot of tour golf. The LIV guys, there's only been 3 events so far, right? And that's kind of a storyline around those guys that may be coming in a little competition rusty.
Yep.
Do you see that as something that may hamper those guys? Or is there anyone out of that group? What is it, 17 or so of those guys? Anyone out of that group that you think has a good shot?
It's really fascinating, and I wish that I had a feel for it, because Brooks Koepka is obviously playing somewhat well. He's won twice in his last 6 starts, and I think that he said this after the LIV Orlando event. Basically, anytime that you go tee it up and you win an event, you're doing something correctly. But there is like this element of, and even Cam Smith said it on Monday at his press conference, his game's probably not where it was a year ago. He was in the final group. He had a chance to kind of close it out. And I just don't know what to expect. What's realistic for a bunch of these guys? They're coming off of a Orlando event that they played at it's like Whispering Cat or something like that. It's literally a public course. It's not Augusta National. So
yeah, do we even know how, because there's no data for the LIV guys, all these numbers we have for the PGA Tour guys, there's none of that for them, and we don't know if the courses are hard or not.
No,
we know nothing.
I just based off some of the national golf reporters that I listen to and podcasts. I think Shotgun Start's a really good Masters podcast. No Laying Up obviously is really good as well, but it's they literally played a public course last week, and going from that to where you can call up and get a tee time to going to this week, how do you differentiate that? How can you tell if a Cam Smith's playing well? I would say the 3 guys that, and it might be kind of obvious, or I guess there's really 4. Pat Reed, because he's won there. DJ, because he's won there. And DJ, obviously, he's not the 50th ranked player in the world, whatever. That we know that's not the case. And then Cam Smith and Brooks. And, Brooks Koepka has proved to be one of the best players in the world when he's healthy. He says that he's healthy right now. He made a run in 2019, runner-up finish to Tiger. He's played well at Augusta before. And then, DJ and Pat Reed have obviously won it. They're going to be at the Champions Dinner on Tuesday night. I just don't know what to really, what is realistic and what can you expect from those guys, because they have played so little golf, and the golf that they have played, as much as you want to buy into the tournament feel and the team stuff with LIV, it's not a PGA Tour event. It's not. It's more of a relaxed atmosphere, and that means something. I don't know what that means, but in my mind, that means something. I don't know how you can prepare and show up for something like this weekend when you've been, for a lack of better terms, playing in shorts with your boys. It's just a different headspace. No matter what they try to tell you or what they say.
So no house music in the background at the Masters?
I don't think that Clifford Roberts, when he envisioned, before he killed himself at the lake, I don't
that got
think
dark
that,
quick.
That's part of the history here. I don't think that he envisioned what the LIV boys have been playing with over the last couple of years, but I don't know. I still go back and forth. I'm kind of interested to see what that thing's like when it heads over to Cedar Ridge here in a couple months.
You mentioned the Champions Dinner. How much would you pay to experience the awkwardness of that? It seems like everyone is mad at Phil. Everyone already doesn't like Patrick Reed.
Yeah.
But the awkwardness at that dinner is going to be incredible.
It's going to be, Bob Herrig from Sports Illustrated wrote a article this week, and he quoted Ben Crenshaw, who's kind of like I guess the captain, if you will, of the dinner. He puts it. He kind of the returning champion hosts the event, but I think Ben Crenshaw is there as kind of the figurehead and the leader of state, if you will. And the way that he was quoted, you would think that there's going to be a terrorist attack, like Saudi Arabia is showing up with the LIV guys. It was almost kind of funny. I don't think it's going to be that bad, but I think that there is going to be some awkwardness, and I can't wait to hear just kind of how awkward some of that stuff is. Like, I think that DJ and maybe Bubba to a certain extent, I don't think that they're necessarily ostracized as much as a Pat Reed, who I think even the LIV guys probably don't like to a certain extent.
Is there like a dream pairing on Sunday, maybe between one of the LIV guys and one of the PGA guys?
Oh, I think that Pat Reed, Rory would be pretty awesome. For some reason, I go back and forth. I kind of like Brooks Koepka. I don't know if I like some of his antics. I think that he has a little bit of buyer's remorse as far as going to LIV. I would love to see him in some type of contention. I would love to see any of the LIV guys in contention just for the spectacle that would come on a Masters Sunday or even a weekend pairing with some of those guys. So Rory, kind of, I guess, because of the leadership that he's shown throughout this whole entire thing against any of those guys would be kind of fun. And who knows? Like DJ, just I don't know if he necessarily considers himself part of LIV. I think he's more of just, my bank account looks good, and I don't.
Yeah,
really
he's
care
like,
who I'm playing with.
You know how much money they gave me, guys.
Yeah.
Come on.
As long as Paulina's there walking alongside him, who really gives a damn at the end of the day?
It's a good point. Okay, before we talk some OU spring ball, let's get a favorite, maybe a dark horse, and maybe like a lock for a top 10.
Yeah. Let's go. I mean, favorite wise, let's go Rory. Maybe that's more heart than anything else. I think he is really playing well right now. There is a sense of confidence that he's playing with. And I think that, what he was able to do a year ago and kind of buoy himself, even after somewhat of a slow start, the closing of a 64, I don't know how much that carries over from year to year, but I do think he's playing extremely well. Maybe, I'm not saying like the pressure would get to a Scotty Scheffler by any means, but it's just so, as Teddy mentioned, it's so, the odds are stacked against you to go back to back. The task at hand is so great for him to have to carry over from a year ago. But then again, he's playing really well. I mean, he's already won a couple times this year.
Gotta be some pressure though too just by himself.
And everything that goes into the week, even before you get to Thursday, whether it be hosting the Champions Dinner on Tuesday night, the preparation, the asks that they make you kind of go through as the current champion or as the presenting champion, it's a lot. It's a lot that goes into it, and it would be an incredible feat. It would almost be more incredible of what he's done over the last 12 months for him to repeat this year than what it has been over the preceding 12 months. So I don't know. I'd go with Rory. I still don't think Jon Rahm. I almost think he's a little bit forgotten about going into this week, and we'll see though. That it was kind of interesting the way that I think it's probably just because we haven't seen him a whole lot here since the designated event. I guess that would have been in Phoenix before they made the move back over to Florida. So that'll be interesting. And then obviously the players, he didn't play very well. He had the hot start on Thursday and then kind of faded over the weekend. But dark horse, I don't know. I guess it kind of it depends on what you consider a dark horse. Like, I think Corey Connors is somebody to watch. I know that there's a lot of steam right now for Stuart Hagestad not Stuart Hagestad, the kid from Vanderbilt as an amateur. I think that there's a lot of people that think he could come in and play this week into maybe a top 20. Now I forget the kid's name. It starts with a W. Now I feel like an idiot. But Stuart Hagestad.
We're clearly no help.
Gordon Sargent. is the kid's name that I'm thinking of. Sam Bennett's had a hell of a year. He's a Texas A&M Aggie, though. I'm sure that there's a lot of people that won't be wanting to root for him. They actually had a really good story about him, and kind of, his dad died. He won the U.S. Amateur. He's gone through a lot of hardships in his life, but Walter Sargent is a name that I think a lot of people will become familiar with. He absolutely murders the golf ball. I think that, if you're talking about a guy that can kind of play himself into a tournament, even if he is an amateur, and it's a big ask, there's 7 of those guys staying at the Crow's Nest this week. It's a big ask, but he hits the ball far enough that if the course does play longer because of rain and because of wet conditions, maybe he plays himself into something. It's just a big ask being the first timer out there, as you've seen so many guys before. And then, I think a guy that a lot of people will be pulling for just because of what he's been able to do here over the last year and the kind of the career that he's had is Max Homa. Like, I think that, he has 2 wins this year already. He's played somewhat well throughout the season. I think he's gone like after going win at the Farmer and the Fortnite, he's gone second, tied 14th, tied 6th, tied 9th. So he has pretty good form coming in this week. His biggest thing is getting over the hurdle in majors. And I think that his best finish is at the Masters is a tie 48th, which came a year ago. And, for a lot of these guys, it's just getting over that. I think that mental hump. And for him, it would be awesome if he could get into a final pairing or into, a weekend pairing still in contention. So those are kind of, I guess, the list of guys that I'm really looking at. And then you get into the Xander Schauffele's of the world, or the JTs, or Jordan Spieth, who we talked about previously, who, if things bounced correctly for him, you could be talking about him being a multi-time Masters winner. If he would have been able to close things out. So it's a lot of fun. This week is truly one of those things that you go, I could talk myself into basically anybody, and kind of a path. And then there's always going to be somebody that you discredit or disregard through the beginning of the week. And you look up on the weekends and you're like, well, why didn't I put him on my fantasy team? I feel like an idiot.
Official pick, Rory?
Yes. I hope so. Fingers crossed. That would be awesome. Head Rory, heart Tiger. I won't go back on Tiger until he's like officially out of it. But, we'll see. And then obviously all the Oklahoma guys that are in the field this week, it'd be cool if Victor Hovland could compete in it, or, at least have a good showing. I know that there's a lot of people that don't like Taylor Gooch because of the way that he left the PGA Tour, but it'd be cool if he could play well.
Yeah, I'd like to see Gooch play well too. All right, you've been out to several of the spring practices. I'll just leave it open, man. What's kind of stood out to you?
It's like one of these things. It's like I want to talk myself into thinking that they've made the turn defensively. When you see some of the bodies that they've been able to add, you see the progression of like, just for instance, like standing with the linebacker group yesterday, and you have Jaron Kanek, Kobe McKenzie, Danny Stutzman taking reps, and then Justin Harrington, Deshaun McCulloch, and Phil Picciotti in there, or Shane White, or whoever. They look great, but what does that, like, how do you separate what they were a year ago and the progression that they're making into this spring? I'm cautiously optimistic about that group. I'm cautiously optimistic about the defensive end group. That you look at Rondell Bothroyd, you look at PJ Adebore, and it's like, that's the dude. Like, that's what you want to look like. That's what you want to recruit as. And then, a safety group that, I thought the first time that we went to practice 2 weeks ago, you look at that safety group and, Billy Bowman and Key Lawrence and Peyton Bowen or Reggie Pearson and Damon Harmon, they look great. Like, you can start talking about developing depth at a position that has been lacking for so many years. So it's kind of fascinating to see kind of how this whole thing's coming together. I wish that Walter Rouse was able to go through. I wish the tight end position was able to go through a little bit more than what they are right now. But, it feels like everything's progressing in the right direction. Everybody's saying the right thing. Unfortunately for us, we just have 5 months to have to talk about it. And that's all that's going to be done in between now and the beginning of camp in August.
Jackson Arnold's the other story. Everyone kind of wants to know what he looks like. And Sounds like he understands that it's going to be a work in progress, but as far as like the tools, the physical traits, all of that stuff, sounds like he looks great.
I mean, he's incredible. I think everybody has this idea of what a 5-star should look like, and I actually saw him play 3 times last year for Geyer, and every time I walked away wowing at something different, whether it was him running away from the Allen defensive backs, and that was a little bit of an Allen team that was down a little bit, obviously, but he's just a dude, and I think that I just want people to be able to kind of caution themselves that because of what Caleb was able to do as a true freshman, I don't know if he has that same skill set as far as being able to just being thrown into the Cotton Bowl and perform. Like, I don't think we appreciate what Caleb was able to do enough. And maybe in hindsight, you do a little bit because he did go on to win the Heisman Trophy. I know that's taboo to talk about around here, but at the same time, he's going to be so damn good in the next couple years. It's almost just like I don't want to like preach patience because I know that like Dylan's going to have to play better than what he did a year ago. And I think that you saw at the end of the year, it start to come on a little bit more, particularly in the bowl game down in the Cheez-It Bowl against Florida State. But yeah, like thinking about the quarterback position and what Jackson could be 2-3 years down the road. And there's a lot to like, man. And especially if you can, I'm preaching to the choir here, but if you compare him with some wide receivers that step up and evolve in front of our eyes, whether it be, Nick Anderson, who I think looks great right now, just running around. And we haven't really seen a whole lot of what he's been able to do. But, him and Jaden Gibson, and then you pair him with Jalil Farouk, and then, Gavin Freeman and Drake Stoops and Andrell Anthony. And then the whole host of guys that are still kind of waiting to come on, whether it be LV Bunkley Shelton or JJ Hester or, Petaway coming in during the summer. There's a lot to like. Like, I'm optimistic about an offense that was probably a lot better than people want to give them credit for a year ago because the expectation of, what that was supposed to be was so grand and so high. I think it was just ultimately disappointing at times, but at the same time, is like they're still top 20 in the country or top 25 in the country. They're still putting up great numbers. It's just skewed because we were so used to those 17, 18, 19 offenses being historically great. And, it's hard. I was doing a podcast earlier with the Solid Verbal guys, and it's like hard to like describe how this team was so freaking close in all of those games. And you guys know this. It's just like they weren't able to get away with some of the stuff that they had gotten away with in 17 and 18 and 19. And it just all kind of came back to bite them a year ago. And if you can just be better in just small little areas, we're talking about the narrative on this program. If they're 8-4, 8-5 a year ago, is so drastic than what it is right now when it's 6-7. And you guys know that. It's just, it's kind of fascinating to me entering the second year under Brent, and some of the stuff that I think from the outside looking in that I was disappointed about, that I don't know, maybe they were just hard truths that they had to be learned and hard lessons that had to be learned. And in the long run and the grand scheme of things, this program's better because there were some failures in year one.
Yeah, the hard part about it for us, right, when we got to talk about it, is it you want to say positive things, but then you remember, hey, 6-7.
Yeah.
And so I don't know about you, but I'm kind of at I'm going to need to see a little bit before I start. Not to say I'm not completely bought into the program and Venables and all that, but I'm just going to have to. You have to see it on Saturdays, right? Like that's just how that's how this game is measured.
Yeah. And it, unfortunately for everybody a part of that program right now, you get basically 13 Saturdays every year to prove kind of what you're worth. And it's I guess frustrating, and to a certain standpoint, that everybody wants these immediate results. Everybody, I think, myself included, admittedly, in some form or fashion, once Brent walked off that plane on that Sunday night down in Norman, it was this defense is going to be better overnight. Everybody's going to know where they need to be. And everybody kind of talked themselves into thinking that just simply because of coaching, they were going to make the steps that everybody wanted them to make defensively. And then you see the lapses and you see the statistics that were at some points worse than they were in previous years. But also at the same time, you saw the growth that Danny Stutzman had a year ago and how we forget that he led the Big 12 in tackles. And, I think that, a perfect example of kind of where this program is at right now is like the hype around, and you guys have talked about this on the pod this in previous weeks, like the hype around Justin Harrington right now. The fans don't care about that because they can't see it every day. And, I think that I'm going to take a wait and see approach, or at least I tell myself that. And, before you know it, in August, we're going to look up and hopefully he's making a lot of plays. Like there's a lot of guys within that defense, particularly that I want to buy into and I want to believe are going to be really big difference makers for this team and for the season. But we're still 5 months away from really proving that and being able to see that come out on, come to fruition on the field. So it's exciting. I guess to a certain extent, it's a little bit scary in a way, because in the back of my brain, it's just always like, and I don't think that anybody wants to talk like this, but it's like, what if this doesn't work out and they aren't able to get this thing figured out? But then again, I think that there's, I don't have to tell you guys this. I think that there's a true belief that everything is going to get figured out and things are headed in the right direction. Whether people outside of the state of Oklahoma want to believe it or not.
You got to be able to carry some momentum forward, right? Like last year, we had a ton of momentum with Venables being hired and recruiting went well. The season did not go well, and so far, somewhat ignored. It seems like recruiting's still going really well, but you can't afford to have 2 of those years. You lose all that momentum that you've got, which is the other thing. The spring game last year record, ton of people out, ton of former players. Was an awesome event. Anyway, this year lives up to that. Like, I don't know that we get 70,000, but we still have a Heisman statue unveiling, right? Yeah. We still got a 5-star quarterback that's going to be taking the field. There's still a lot of things to be excited about, but like, how do you feel about that?
It's crazy to me that it's almost just become like old hat that Oklahoma's putting another statue up, putting another Heisman Trophy up, and I think that like
it's gonna be weird when we don't have one that's like in the queue waiting.
Right. The sculptors are going to be looking for things to do. Might have to might have to send them to Oklahoma City, and they can make one for J-Dub after the Thunder goal for the world title here in a couple of months or a couple of weeks.
Big one on Sunday, baby. Big one.
I'm nervous about tonight. So that's where my headspace is at. I do think it's going to be a good turnout. Hopefully you get good weather like we did a year ago. I think that like the spring game has kind of become a celebration of Oklahoma football, and I'm kind of excited to see what that turnout's going to be for Kyler. Obviously Baker's going to be back in town. I think that there's still a bunch of people that are scheduled to be returning, and that thing went so well a year ago. You just hope that, everybody kind of has the same vibe that they did a year ago and the same energy that they brought for Baker. And I think it should be really cool. And, the recruiting thing is so crazy to me too, because if you would have told me that they were going to hold on to basically everybody except Colton Bosick after that Texas game, and then you got into like that dark period right after the Texas game and, kind of the ups and downs that season had, I would have said you were nuts. And for them to be able to close and hold on to PJ and hold on to Peyton Bowen or flip Peyton Bowen at the very end, and really kind of keep that thing intact, get a Phil Pichotti to campus, it was almost, I guess, reassuring in a way that whatever that message is that they're sending recruits and they're telling portal guys, whether it be Walter Roos or, Reggie Pearson or Deshaun McCulloch or whoever, it's like people are buying in. Now it's time to capitalize and really start progressing towards something that you would want to take down to the SEC in 2025. So, it's a big year. It's a big year for everybody involved in the program. And I think that it's almost kind of exciting in a way because of the unknown. I don't know. It's always fun to have high expectations and, be devastated when OU goes 12-1 or 11-2. But at the same time, right now I told some people earlier, it's like Oklahoma football right now is so fascinating, and there's so many questions going into the next few years, and just maybe even in a grander scale as a whole of what college football is going to look like in 2025. It's a good kind of fun business to be in right
now. Eddie, you're the man. Hopefully Sooner Scoop has not fallen into complete disarray with us taking the fearless leader.
You never know.
For about 40 minutes.
You never know, and you wouldn't be surprised. That's kind of the way that it goes.
Yeah. You're awesome, man. Thanks for the time.
Appreciate it, guys. Anytime.